الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على من اجتباه وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. Moving on in our sessions of Al-Aqeedatul-Waasitiyyah by Shaykh Al-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah, رحمه. The legendary Imam, the well-known scholar, a scholar that was trailed in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala greatly, to convey this aqidah that we have bayna aydina, in front of us. He was trialed so much that he died in prison. And from what was mentioned concerning him, that in his prostration, while he was imprisoned, he would say the likes of the words, Allahumma inni ala dhikrik wa shukrik wa husn ibadatik. He used to make these du'as in his sujood. And he would find his imprisonment a moment to get closer and nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هكذا المؤمن. This is the state of the believer. لا يزيده الابتلاء إلا قوة وثباتا وإيمانا إن شاء الله. The believer, the trials only increase him in strength, only increase him in faith. One obstacle to another, by the will of Allah, he gets over it. So this Imam, when he was in prison, he used to say, the real imprisonment is to be imprisoned and locked of your heart away from your Lord. هكذا قال. He said, المحبوس من حبس قلبه عن ربه. And the real captive is the one that has been locked away by his desire. So he really found himself in a state of comfort and ease. It was like a form of i'tikaf for him, seclusion. So we take from this that this man and his works that we're reading it didn't come easy. This deen, the way it was conveyed by difficulty and hardship. Now some of us, we may complain about small little things, this affair or that affair. The ilm, knowledge, has precedence. Even to the extent that you should try to schedule your work and your lifestyle to suit and to cater to knowledge, not the other way around. People nowadays, they try to make knowledge suit and cater to their lifestyle. They make it according to their schedule to fit that, while in reality knowledge is to have precedence and first come in all affairs. So, because you're learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, and this is the greatest thing that you can learn. The more you learn that, the more you increase of fear and veneration, as we mentioned in previous class. And knowledge, when a person learns it, he becomes open for the virtues. Some of the virtues that everything in the earth seeks forgiveness. For a scholar, in another narration, for a talib al-ilm. حتى الحيتان في بحر. حتى الحيتان في بحرها. Even the fishes, the small fishes, make dua and seek forgiveness for the seeker of knowledge and the teacher of it. Why is that the case? Because the benefit of one who has knowledge reaches even to the animals. He teaches the people to even do ihsan, be good to the animals. He teaches the people the rights of the animals. So this extent, his benefit is not just restricted and confined to himself, but it's expansive. So never look at learning or coming to the likes of these gatherings as something being insignificant or small. If we find that Sahabas, in particular Jabir bin Abdullah, the one who narrated over 1,500 hadith, he traveled when he heard one Sahabi had one hadith, Abdullah ibn Unais, he had one particular hadith that he didn't have. He traveled from Medina to Sham, 1 month journey for that hadith. He said, I feared that I pass away or you pass away before I receive that hadith. And he has already memorized over 1,500 hadith. Never look to be satisfied and content with what you have. Wallahi, maybe you learn something extra that will bring you nearer and nearer, closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the affair, and we're going to move on, inshallah. Today's topic is the attributes of ma'iyyah. The ma'iyyah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with His servants, or He's close with His knowledge, and He encompasses them with His capability. We're going to clarify that in more in detail, inshallah, as the brother reads.
And his statement, the most virtuous of faith is that you know that Allah is with you wherever you are. A Hasan Hadith.
This hadith is going to be mentioned that it was reported on Ubadah ibn Samit, and its wording in Arabic, أفضل الإيمان أن تعلم أن الله معك حيثما كنت. The greatest of faith, or the most virtuous of it, is to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you wherever you are. This is basically meaning to be on the level of ihsan. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you could see Him, and if you cannot see Him, then know that He could see you. This is the most virtuous and the greatest, where it's the peak, to reach to a level where you recall and remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever watcher over you. And we're going to read some kalam here about this topic. And the reason why this attribute comes after ulu, after Allah being referred to as being high and superior and exalted and above His creation, is commonly mentioned the attribute that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also near and close. He is above and high, yet near. How is He near? We're going to explain that in further detail, that He's near with the likes of His attributes, of His knowledge and His capability and so forth. So we're going to read some speech relating to this affair. Read this part, yeah? So it's a slave.
The slave of Allah should worship Him. The slave of Allah should worship Him in such a way as if he is seeing Him and is observing Him, and keep in mind that Allah is with him wherever he lives. Whatever a man says, whatever he does, and in whatever he is engaged, Allah keeps a watch over him in all conditions and remains informed of him. Allah says, whatever you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may be doing, and whatever portion you may be reciting from the Quran, and whatever deed you, mankind, may be doing, good or evil, we are witness thereof when you are doing it. Surah Yunus, verse number 61.
So that is reading portion from the explanation of this booklet by Khalil al-Harras. Khalil al-Harras, rahimahullah, Shaykh Khalil al-Harras. This topic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being with you, wherever you are, at times it implies and instills fear in the heart of the person. And at other times it implies and instills hope for the person. How can that be? For example, we find at times in the Quran Allah says, "La tahzan inna Allah ma'ana." Do not be sad. Do not be one that is worried. For verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. In this case, it is to instill hope and to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at their aid. And there's another one where what is implied from it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching over them, and that He could swiftly reckon them for their deeds. So it instills fear in their hearts. So in a nutshell, one is general and one is specific. The general one, to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, it is for the believers and the non-believers. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's above His throne, exalted is He, yet at the same time, He's with His creation, with His knowledge, observing everything they do. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ مِنْ عَمَلٍ, that you do not do any deeds, nor do you read any portion of the Qur'an, except that we are shuhudan, that we're witnesses over you when you're engaged in it. So Imam Shanqiti rahimahullah, he says one of the greatest zajir, it's a benefit from one of the mashayikh, one of the greatest things that instill fear in the person is to know that Allah can see you. To recall, akbar zajir, one of the greatest things that instills fear in your heart to refrain from disobeying Allah is to recall that Allah can see you. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Does he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see him? When a person recalls this, and the likes of the ayats, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, that Allah is with you wherever you are. So this makes a person applies the command of the Prophet, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ or فَاتَّقِ اللَّهِ حَيْثُ مَا كُنْتُمْ, fear Allah wherever you may be. Why is that the case? Because Allah can see you wherever you are, secret or public. So we take from this wording that the virtuous of the faith is to know that Allah is with you, that Iman is at different levels, that it increases and decreases. And also we know that the greatest of faith is to learn about Allah. Wallahi, from the greatest of deeds that increase your faith is ma'rifatullah, to ta'allam, to learn more about your Lord and your Messenger. This is from the greatest of ulum, the greatest of sciences that a person can learn is to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this hadith always reminds a servant that wherever he may be, he's never alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. You can never say, khalawtu, I'm alone. For verily there is always a raqib, one watching over you. So this would even bring shyness. Some of the companions, they would be shy when they're alone, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see them. In particular, this hadith, in some of the manuscripts, or the copies, it wasn't mentioned. It wasn't mentioned. They said that there was a time where this book was read to Shaykh Al-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah, and when it was being read, this particular hadith wasn't mentioned. So some say that perhaps being that he took the opinion of this hadith is not authenticated. It's not authentic because there's some difference of opinion regarding the narrators. There's a narrator found in his chain by the name, I'm going to mention his name because he's an important figure, Nu'aym bin Hammad. He's a great scholar. He was from those people that were tortured for saying that the Qur'an is the speech of Allah, or from refraining to say that the Qur'an is created. He was brought and tortured and chained and left in prison where he was there then. He passed away. And even when he passed away, they did not pray on him. They didn't even put a regular funeral procession up for him. They didn't do none of that. They just threw him in a pit without praying on him, without washing him. And he used to say before dying, let me die with my chains. Let me die being chained so I can come in front of Allah mukhasiman, asking Allah for my right to be oppressed for saying that his book is the speech of Allah. So this Imam, Nu'aym bin Hammad, he's an Imam. But the scholars, they said, yes, he's a Sahib Sunnah, he's a companion of Sunnah, but in regards to memorization, he wasn't that strong. They said his memory wasn't that accurate. So they would regard his hadith to have a lot of errors there. So in particular, they used to say that his hadith have no value. Like Yahya ibn Ma'in used to say, his hadith laysa bi shay, walakinnahu sahib sunnah. However, he is a man of sunnah. So yes, you can find a particular man of knowledge. He may have some deficiencies in certain fields. It's possible. Nowadays, if you try to affirm that a particular scholar or someone has a deficiency in certain things, you're being referred to attacking that person. SubhanAllah, this is an imam, and his hadith was rejected because of his memory, and it was being known. So some defend and say that this particular hadith that we read wasn't from those hadiths that were mentioned of being from his errors. So for that reason, Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned it here. In all cases, the meaning is correct. The greatest of Iman is to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. Then we move on to the next hadith due to the shortness of time.
And his statement, whenever any one of you stands to observe the prayer, then let him not spit in front of himself nor to his right, for Allah isn't facing him, but to his left or under his feet. Agreed upon.
The second hadith. This hadith, it comes in the Sahihain, Bukhari, Muslim, on a number of Sahabas. At times it comes on Ibn Umar, comes on Abi Huraira, comes on Jabir, Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, and also it comes on Anas bin Malik. And it has a number of wordings, all to affirm that when a person... It shows that when a person is praying, that he is addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's addressing Allah. Some of the scholars, they took from the wording, when you're reading Fatiha, you're saying, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. The kaf, we're saying, you, O Allah, we worship. So you're addressing Allah. And it comes to some of the wordings, yunaji Rabbah. He is, some of them translated as a private conversation with his Lord. Some of them say communicating with his Lord in the prayer, or talking to his Lord. Those wordings, but the wording is yunaji, where he's addressing and speaking to his Lord in this manner of a dua, supplicating. So we affirm that. But we don't go into excessiveness and say, like what some people do now, if you want to talk to Allah, go pray. And if you want Allah to talk to you, then read the Quran. And if you want this, then do that. It gets to a scenario where you start speaking other than the way the Prophet ﷺ spoke. Try to confine and restrict it to how Allah and His Messenger mentioned it. So this affair, it comes that he should not spit before him, in front of him, nor on his right. The reason for before him, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, qibala wajhi, Allah is in front of him. And why does he not spit on his right? Who knows? Why does he not spit on his right? It comes in a wording in Bukhari, because an yaminihi malak. On his right, there's an angel recording the good deeds. Recording the good deeds, so there then, he does not spit on his right. But if he has to spit, then in a scenario where it's an area where he could spit on his left or under his feet, then he would do so. Like if there's no one on his left, then he would spit on his left or under his feet, and then he covers it up with his shoes or whatever he can do to make sure there's no remainance of it. And in a scenario where he has to spit, it was out of control, then it comes to some of the wordings that let him use a piece of cloth. The word thobe could be any type of clothing. He could use a handkerchief. He could even use, in certain cases, worse scenarios, a piece of his own clothing, and then يَجْعَلْ بَعْضَهُ فِي بَعْض. He puts one over the other so it doesn't remain anything on his clothes. And alhamdulillah, now what's available is manadil. A person would use a tissue and he would prevent any harm to come into anyone else. especially he's in congregation, he wouldn't do so. And the mosque has to be protected from any type of harm or filth or the likes of that sort, even though spit in itself is not najis. Spit in itself is tahir. Saliva, it is not najis, it's not impure, but from cleanliness of the masjid, a person will prevent that. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, whoever spits towards the qibla, he will come yawm al-qiyamah, and what he spat, or what the spit in itself, will be between aynay, between his two eyes. Yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of resurrection. So this affair is severe. When a person recalls that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in front of him, he would have more caution of doing certain things. Playful, moving his hands and so forth, constantly. He would remember that he's before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The question arises, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above, how can He be in front? This is what some people ask. We say firstly, when the wordings of the Quran and the Sunnah come, there's no contradiction. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِي اخْتِلَافٍ كَثِيرًا. There's nothing contradictive in the book or the Sunnah. Maybe in your understanding and your view of it, you assume there's some differing. But in reality, there's nothing. Because even with the creatures or the creation itself, sometimes we'll say the sun is in front of us. We'll say the sun is in front of us, yet at the same time, where is it? It's up, it's above. So there's no contradiction with that. And even with the wording, when we say Allah is with us and He's above His throne, sometimes we will walk and we'll say we were walking and the moon was with us. We were walking and the sun was with us. At the same time, where's the sun? Above. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. And Allah has the greater example. So, people they ask concerning this, is this ruling confined to the mosque, that you cannot spit in front of you towards the qibla or on your right, even outside the mosque? Can you spit on your right? Huh? Abdullah Mas'ud, his opinion is that this was general. Some of the scholars, they see it general. He said, مَا بَسَقْتُ عَنْ يَمِينِ مُنْذُ أَسْلَمْتُ وَكَمَا قَالَ رضي الله عنه. He said, I did not spit on my right since I accepted Islam. So the right side, it's for honorable things. So a person would do so. Person may ask, isn't on our left an angel that records the bad deeds? Why are we allowed to spit on the left? Huh? First, is there an angel on the left? Who can give us a proof that there's an angel on the left? From Surah Qaf. إِذْ يَتَلَقَّى الْمُتَلَقِّيَانِ عَنِ الْيَمِينِ عَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَعِيدٌ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirms that there are two angels, one on the right and one on the left. One recording good deeds, as comes in some of the narrations on hadith of Hudayfa, that this particular angel on the right is recording good deeds. And on the left, recording bad deeds. So we do not indulge too much to ask why this or why that. It is not Allah that's to be questioned about His rulings. It is us that are going to be questioned about our performance. Did we carry out the rulings? Did we carry out the commands? That is the main thing that we should be focusing. But some of them mention that being that the angel is recording the good deeds, and it's from an angle of nobility, he would not spit on his right. And some said, just generally speaking, the right is for honorable things. So we'll move forward. But one more thing is that there comes a similar topic regarding the shoes. When you're praying and you want to pray with your shoes beside you, where do you put them? Do you put them on your right? Do you put them in between your 2 feet? Do you put them on your left? What do you do? When you're praying, if you're not going to put your shoes in the place where the shoes are hanged or left, where are you going to put your shoes? Are you going to put it in front of you? Huh? What are you going to do? Comes in a hadith, I believe hadith Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, that let him put it on his left as there's no one there. If not, then between his 2 feet. So that is the ruling. And he will not put it on his right. So these are things that come based upon revelation. It's not based upon logic. No one can come and say, an angel is on this side, so we can do this. We can't do this. Or kada, la la. This is matters of the unseen. It's left to the text. I remember when I was in Yemen, I did certain things on my left, and a person said, brother, you're harming an angel. I said, subhanAllah, this is left to the text of the Quran and Sunnah. This is matters of unseen. And we tell them, إِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَ تَتَأَذَّى مِمَّا يَتَأَذَّى مِنْهُ بَنُو آدَمَ. The malaika are harmed from what the people are harmed by. Where did I harm someone? There was no one there, so I can put my shoe or this on my left. So move on, inshallah. One more thing. Some of them, they go to another extent in mentioning the wordings of or talking to Allah. Some of them say they like wordings that intimate conversation with Allah, or this or that. These type of wordings should be avoided. These wordings should be avoided. Also, some nowadays, if you were to in the prayer spit in your handkerchief or your tissue in the prayer, people, they find this to be against the etiquettes of the prayer. La la la. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the likes of these wordings, to put it in a piece of clothing if you cannot put it anywhere else, and it used the word إِذَا بَادَرَ. If it comes instantly and you need to spit, then spit in a handkerchief or a tissue of that sort.
And his statement, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, O Allah, the Lord of the 7 heavens and the earth, and the Lord of the majestic throne, our Lord and the Lord of everything, the one who splits the grain, al-hab, and seed, and nawa, the revealer of the Torah, Injil, and the Quran. I seek refuge in you from the evil of my soul and from the evil of every dabba, whose nasiya you take hold of. You are al-awwal, there is nothing before you. You are al-akhir, there is nothing after you. You are az-zahir, there is nothing above you. You are al-batin, there is nothing nearer than you. Settle my debt on my behalf and suffice me from poverty. Reported by Muslim.
The hadith that was read is from the ad'iyah, the supplications that are to be read before going to sleep. It even comes in some of the narrations. I believe hadith Abu Hurairah, Muslim, commanding that when you're going to bed, go on your right side and say this dua. This dua. And one of the munasabah, the reason some of the scholars mentioned that it was suitable at the time of going to sleep to recall the likes of this dua, is a person, when he's going to sleep, he at times loses sleep for a number of affairs, and from those affairs in particular is thinking of debts and liabilities that he has to face the next day. He's perhaps tossing and turning, can't find sleep. He's looking for some comfort, thinking about those liabilities and so forth. This is a dua that you say, wallahi, it helps you the next day, inshallah. Arabt. And the beginning of it is the wording Allahumma. And this word Allahumma, the correct opinion, some of them say that this meme at the beginning, it's Allah with the letter meme added. And they say this meme lil jam, to assemble all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one wording. Basically to say, oh Allah, with your beautiful names and your beautiful attributes. And some said the meme here is just a replacement of saying, Ya Allah. Ya Allah. In all cases, they said it's not correct for you to add Allahumma with the name of Allah. For example, Allahumma ghafurur rahim. They said here it's not suitable. Because they said the word Allahumma, some of them said it assembles all 99 names in the word Allahumma. When you say Allahumma, oh Allah, with this wording, They said, يَجْمَعْ لَكْ تِسْعَةً وَتِسْعِينَ إِسْمًا, 99 names with this word. They said it's from the ajma', it's from the most comprehensive ways of asking with this, from the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it comes that Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, مَا تَرَكْتُ. And some of the wordings of another dua, he said, when the Prophet ﷺ taught him a dua to say when going to sleep, he said, I did not leave it from the time I heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. And when he's asked, even Laylatul Safin, even on the nights of the Battle of Safin, he said, Wala Laylatul Safin. Even the nights of the Battle of Safin, one of the most difficult nights for Ali ibn Abi Talib. And on that night, he still remembered this dua. Shows you the ibadah. Some of the scholars, they said, these du'as, when you say it before you go to sleep, you wake up energetic, enthusiastic, and the likes of these wordings. So, this affair, we're going to try to read the dua bit by bit. Inshallah, we're going to read the first part.
The same dua.
No, inshallah. So, Allahumma Rabb as-samawati as-sab'i wal-ardi wa Rabb al-arsh al-azim Rabbana wa Rabb kulli shay. So, reminding that the person, when he's invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he's using these words, such as Allahumma, and also repeating the word Rabb, it's from the means of your dua to be answered. Even them said, they took from the last 10 ayats of Surah Ali Imran, that if you repeat in your dua, Rabbana, 5 times or 3 times, then it increases the chances of your dua to be answered. So this word Rabb, when it's repeated, along with different attributes of Allah, it increases the hope of your dua to be answered. The word فَالِقَ الْحَبِّ وَالنَّوَى, the splitter of the grain and the seed. So this is something miraculous. Up until now, they cannot identify how it does it by itself. This is something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it in itself can come from it different types of trees from this small grain or this small seed that was once like something solid like a rock, and then it split it open and it became what it became. So this is from the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Munzil al-Tawrat wal-Injil wal-Quran, the revealer of the Torah and the Injil and the Quran, the best of books. And starting with the first from to be revealed, the Torah, then the Injil, then the Quran. أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها. I seek refuge, and then some of the wordings, it's not found this word. I seek refuge from the evil of myself. When you go back to the wordings that are correct, this wording is not found. It's found in other du'as for sleep, but it's not found in this one. But generally, we seek refuge from the evil of our souls. Who can give us that we say on the khutbahs? Min shururi anfusina. We seek refuge from the evil of ourselves. So yes, the person seeks refuge from the evil of himself. وَمِن شَرِّ كُلِّ دَابَّةٍ أَنْتَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا. And every creature, here it says, the wording, and everything on the face of the earth that walks. Some say that dabba is usually used for the 4-legged animal, but it really means here anything on the face of the earth that's walking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is akhidun binasiyatiha. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes hold of it, and He's the last, and there's nothing after Him. Wa anta zahir. The word zahir, there's basically you are the superior one, and there's nothing above you, and you're the batin, the most near, and there's nothing nearer than you. So the meaning of al-batin, that He's the most near. Some of them mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near by encompassing His creation with His knowledge. And He knows everything about them. He knows the sirr wa akhfa. What is the sirr and akhfa? The secret between two people. And even the akhfa, al-akhfa, which is what is in the soul of the person. So this means that Allah is quite near to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is quite near to you. And others have mentioned that the word al-batin is because, as a benefit of Shaykh Al-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah, a narration that Ibn Abbas said, the heavens and the earth in the palm of Rahman, in Allah's hand, and the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like a mustard seed, حبة خردلة في كف أحدكم, is like the mustard seed in one of our hands. So showing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses the heavens and earth, and He is one that has all awareness of His creation. So said this is from the meanings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the most near. So it does not imply that Allah is within His creation. He's the one above, yet near, through these attributes. The last part of it, اقضي عني الدين وأغنني من الفقر. Settle my debt on my behalf and suffice me from poverty. Wallahi, this is something that a person should constantly ask. They said a debt, dain, hammun fil layl wa dhullun fil nahar. It's distress and worries in the night and embarrassment in the day. You don't even want to see the person that you owe money. Try to avoid. Even some of them, they said that in some of the books of fuqaha, that it's perhaps allowed for you to miss the jama'ah just to avoid the person you owe money. We're not going to say that opinion, but just to show you how much embarrassment it is. Arab. So this affair is what we're speaking about. And suffice me from poverty. Suffice me from poverty. They said this poverty is general. It can be even poverty of knowledge, poverty of being upright in your religion. But the most common meaning that is understood first is poverty and wealth. To not own anything. The Prophet ﷺ would seek refuge of it. Some of the du'as found in the Sunan, you say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-faqr. Oh Allah, I seek refuge from poverty. A person may ask, it comes some narration, the Prophet asking to be raised and resurrected with the masakin. How do we combine this? So the first is the difference between a miskin and a poor. Miskin is someone that owns something, but he may be going through difficulties and hardship and is expensive. But a faqir, a poor person, who's totally poor, he doesn't own anything. That type of level where you have to put your hand out and rely upon people and even start to make false, fake appointments and paying debts, start falling to lies. That you seek refuge from. And even the hadith, Shaykh Muhammad Salih al-Haymin mentions the hadith from as a parent of this hadith, and it shows you that is weak. The Prophet asked to be resurrected with the masakin. So the person would ask for sufficiency. That's what the Prophet ﷺ used to encourage. Allahumma rzuq ala Muhammadin quta. Oh Allah, provide for the family of Muhammad that which is sufficient in provision. That's your dua. That is the more authentic. I believe the timing is short. I'll try to move on to the next. Here, a topic side benefit. It mentions something that's relating to materials, grains, seeds, and then at another time it mentions something that's more spiritual, the Quran, the Torah, showing you that it is something that a person would know that what is nourishment for his body is the grains and the seed, and what is the nourishment for his soul is the kutub, samawi, the books from the heavens. So, and a person, his heart is not alive except with these revelations, and his body does not become alive except with the grain in the seed, meaning with the nourishment of materials of food and drink. So some have mentioned this is the connection, Allah knows best. What is more better? To give sadaqah or to give a person a goodly loan? Is it better for me to give you if you're going through tough times, should I just say to you, brother, you don't have to pay me back that debt? Or should I say, I'll give you an extra time to pay? Extend it. Some of the Sahabis would say, لأن أقرض أحب إلي من أن أتصدق. Said that for me to give a goodly loan is more beloved to me than to give sadaqah. Because a goodly loan, for every day that you loan a person, you get sadaqah. And every day that you give him an extension off the deadline, you get double the amount. Mithlay, and you get the double amount. Because they come in authentic hadith. So some of them mention this, Allah knows best. We'll move on to them.
And his statement sallallahu alayhi wasallam when the companions raised their voices in remembrance, O you people, be gentle upon yourselves, for you are not calling one that is deaf nor absent. You are only calling one who hears, who sees. Indeed, the one you are calling is closer to one of you than the neck of his riding camel. Agreed upon.
This hadith also affirms that Allah is qareebun fi uluwi wa aliyun fi dunuwi, that He's near in His highness and high in His nearness. Everybody understands that? Allah is near in His highness and high in His nearness. He's above His creation, Al-A'la, the Most High, at the same time, Qareeb, He's near. How is He Qareeb? With some of the attributes we mentioned, such as His knowledge, that He encompasses the creation with His capability. All of that shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near and He hears everything they say. And also some have mentioned that He's near with His angels. He's near with His angels. Who can give us some ayats? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ. This is one ayah in Surah Qaf and Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Who can give us the two ayats? Read it for us. Read the ayah. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبِلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to Him than His own jugular vein. SubhanAllah. Another one, at the time of death, all of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing that He is near with the presence of His angels being at the side to take His death, to take His soul. So some of them said, this is the meaning also, the general nearness of Allah is with His malaika and also with His capability and His knowledge. And His specific nearness, the qurb al-khas, is with Him answering and being at the aid of His believers. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيب. How is He قَرِيب? أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I answer the supplication of the one invoking. So this is from the meaning. And even in this hadith it comes that the one you're invoking is closer to you than the neck of your riding animal. Meaning the closest thing to you that is separate is the neck of your riding animal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could hear your dua. If you were to say it with a low voice or raise it, it is all heard by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His nearness of His knowledge and His seeing and His hearing. Some have went to another extreme about this hadith. And they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nearer to us than the neck of our riding camel, meaning that He's everywhere. They say Allah is the air, Allah is this, Allah is that, Allah is over there, this. They say Allah fi kulli makan. We don't say that. We say Allah fi sama. He's above the heavens. Allah is above the heavens. And whenever a person has these type of weird speculations, he says, Allahu A'la, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the most high, Allah is the greatest. To free him from any type of strange thoughts that come to mind. And the story of the hadith, some of the Sahabas, they were on expedition of Khaybar. Hadith comes in the wording, Laysa bighaibin. وَمَا كُنَّا غَائِبِينَ. We are not those who are absent. So we affirm that Allah is present. He's not absent. But we say present, that He's above His creation, and He's with them, with His attributes of hearing and seeing. لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. Nothing's hidden from Him in the earth or the heaven. Okay, comes some hadith. من تقرب إلي شبرا تقربت إليه ذراعا. Whoever seeks nearness to me through a handspan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeks nearness to him through an arm span or a cubit, as they say. The Shaykh Al-Albani says, firstly, we should not indulge into this hadith. لا نبحث في المعاني. We should not go so much indulge into the depthness of this hadith, the meanings of it. We just affirm that it's Allah in a way that befits His majesty. From what's apparent, we affirm the apparent meaning. And some have said the meaning of it means that Allah, the person, when he seeks nearness to Allah through acts of worship, Allah comes nearer to him with forgiveness and reward. With forgiveness and reward. And they say this is similar to like when a person says, I'm getting closer to the city of Toronto. It doesn't mean Toronto is getting closer to him, but he's getting closer to Toronto. Some said that means like that. That a person's been getting closer to Allah through good deeds. Generally speaking, we say that a person, when he gets closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to his acts of worship, Allah gets closer to him through what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned for His believers of aid and support and answering their dua. And we don't say like some of the people that fell into superstitions. They say you become into a state of spiritual connection with Allah. You have this bond that Allah is with you wherever you are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be within you, and these type of states. This is into extreme. So, so some of them said the meaning of it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes a barrier between you and Him. Nothing becomes a barrier between you and Him. For that's from the meanings of Him being near. Is there any other hadith? It comes that we're going to mention it before the adhan, that the origin is that we lower our voices with dhikr. But it comes some exceptions. They said, for example, after the salat, after the 5 daily prayers, the Prophet ﷺ, comes a narration of Ibn Abbas, that they would know the exit of the prayer through the raising of the voice of dhikr. So they say, some of the Sahabas, it was heard from them, some of the Tabi'een, they said, we prayed beside Abdullah ibn Umar, another time Abdullah ibn Umar, and we heard from him saying, Allahumma tis-salam, wa minka salam, tabarakta ya dhal jalali wa ikram. They're saying this, they say we can hear this from them. And we can hear them say, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. To the end of the dua, they say we can hear this from him. So some take from this, and this is the opinion of Imam Ahmed, at the beginning, to show the exit of the prayer, a person will raise his voice with dhikr, in a moderate tone of raising a voice, not exhausting himself, raising his voice of that which is a normal tone of raising, and he would say the likes of this at the beginning. Then he will go into the tasbih. You go into the tasbih. So some another affair, it comes that Umar al-Khattab, he used to discipline and reprimand those who would raise their voice in the mosque. Imam Bukhari opened up a chapter, Bab Raf'u Sawt fil Masjid, raising your voice in the mosque. And he would see that it was something great that a person should be reprimanded for, raising your voice in the house of Allah. Especially when the people are reading Quran. فَكُلُّكُمْ يُنَاجِي رَبَّ. Everyone is in a state of returning to their Lord. Last benefit is regarding the saying takbir right after the taslim. Shaykh Mubil says, يشرع أن يرفع صوته بتكبير 3 تكبيرات أو 4 تكبيرات أو 5 تكبيرات. You can say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He doesn't have to confine to 3. There's no proof to confine to 3 after the salat. Just any takbir of the exiting of the prayer, you can say it on any number of times, as it comes in the narration of Ibn Abbas. Although there's a dispute about it. Last benefit, I think the time of adhan has come in. The ilaha illallah. Inshallah, I think we'll suffice with this amount. It is clear that we affirm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with His creation, with His nearness of His knowledge and His attributes, and that He encompasses them. And at the same time, He is above His creation, and exalted is He from being within His creation, but in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is separated from His creation. This is what we affirm, and this is what's intended, that we understand that Allah is above, yet